In this video we're going to talk about Eckhart Tolle's book The Power of Now and compare what he speaks about in that book to Taoism, which is a philosophy and spiritual tradition that originated in China. And then we're going to try and answer the following questions. How powerful is now? What impact does presence have on your life? Is society chronically not present? How do you implement presence in your life? So in the book The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle basically only makes a few points, and the main point is to be in the present moment. So that is being in the present moment and accepting it exactly as it is, not having thoughts and conceptions about how it should be and resisting it. So some of the ways he says to do that are to disassociate with your mind, and instead of telling yourself a story about reality, just being in reality as it is. And another way he recommends you cultivate presence is by using inner body awareness. So we often spend most of our waking hours in our heads and we're thinking thoughts, and we rarely feel our bodies. We might go to the gym or go for a run and be reminded of our body, but he says you're kind of sat there and you bring your attention down into your body and you notice aliveness of certain body parts. So this is essentially a body scanning practice. Another key point in the book is to not create psychological time. So take your relationship for example. If in the present moment your relationship isn't going so good, you need to be present and accept that and be here now and really see it for what it is. But often you will think back to a time when your relationship was good in the beginning, or you'll project forward, oh, it's probably, if it's bad now, it's probably going to get worse and, you know, be a problem. But neither of those things are now. And if you dwell on the past and think, oh, it was good back then and miss those times, or think that the future's going to be worse, you might act in a certain way in the present moment that is going to make that a reality. Often we have self-fulfilling prophecies. If we think something's going to go bad, like our health or our relationship or our financial situation, then it usually does. Whereas if we are in the present moment, you can act in a way that might repair the relationship or make it better. So that is basically the teaching in The Power of Now, is to be present, accept the present moment as it is, inner body awareness and mindfulness. Now, if we compare that to Taoism, and I'll just read a brief description of Taoism and some of the key tenets. The Tao can be translated as the way or the path. The Tao represents the natural order of the universe, the underlying principle that governs everything. It emphasizes harmony, balance, and living in accordance with the rhythms of nature. In Taoist philosophy, the Tao is ineffable and transcends human understanding, yet it can be experienced through living in harmony with the universe. And these are some of the key tenets of Taoism. Wu Wei, non-action. Embrace the concept of effortless action, going with the flow rather than against it. Zuran, naturalness. Live in harmony with nature and your surroundings, appreciating the inherent simplicity and beauty of the world. Yin and Yang. Understand and balance the opposing forces in life, recognizing that they are interdependent and in constant flux. Simplicity. Simplify your life by reducing unnecessary desires and attachments, embracing moderation and contentment. Humility. Practice humility and modesty, recognizing the limits of your knowledge and abilities. Spontaneity. Embrace spontaneity and adaptability, allowing life to unfold naturally without rigid plans or expectations. And inner peace. Cultivate inner peace and tranquility through practices such as meditation and mindfulness. So it seems pretty clear that what Eckhart Tolle speaks about in The Power of Now is essentially a Taoist philosophy. Being present and going with the flow and accepting reality as it is. Alan Watts speaks about Taoism really well, so if you want to learn more about Taoism, I would recommend just type into YouTube Alan Watts Taoism. And he speaks about Zen Buddhism in a very similar way. But an example I like to use, and this has been helpful in my life, because I tend to go against nature and it hasn't worked out for me, and now I'm going with the flow and being more present. He would say, picture a river, right? And you're in the river. You can either swim against the river. Now you could swim with full power, and if you're swimming at the speed of the river, you're not going to get anywhere. So you could swim with full power and you're not going to get upstream. Whereas if you think, so no matter how hard you try, you're not going to go against the river. Whereas if you turn around and stop swimming, you're going to go with the stream. But you have a choice now. You can say you want to go to the left bank or the right bank of the river. You can do that with minimal effort, because you don't have to swim against the power of the stream. You've got the whole power of the river behind you, and you just paddle a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, and you'll get to where you need to go. So you can have goals in life. I speak about having goals and doing habits to get what you want. But it can't be upstream. So there are certain goals that you just can't have because they're upstream. But if you choose your goals and let the power of nature go with you, it makes it a lot easier. You just navigate with the power of the stream. So now we know what Eckhart Tolle's teaching is and what Taoism is. Let's try and answer those questions. So the first one was, how powerful is now? And if you think about it, it's infinitely powerful because it's all there is. It's all there's ever been. So in your life, if you think of a time that wasn't now, even when you're thinking about the past or thinking about the future, you're still in the present moment doing it. Every moment in your life, everything that's ever happened, everything you've gained or lost, has always been in the now, in the present moment. So in that respect, it's as powerful as anything. It is the most powerful thing. Any action you've taken that's had a good outcome, you've done it now. You might have thought about doing it, but when you was thinking about doing it, it was now. And then when you did it, it was also now. So in that way, the now is infinitely powerful, and it's the only thing that there is. So it must be powerful. So it has, in a more biblical sense, it has the power of all creation behind it, because everything comes out of the now, out of the present moment. So question number 2 was, what impact does being present or presence have on your life? And I've implemented presence, and it does exactly that. It gives you the power of the present moment. You often rob yourself of energy and power by thinking about the past or the future, because you can no longer act. So talk about relationships, right? Say you're thinking about a past relationship that failed. You're in a supermarket doing your shopping, and you're in a queue, and it's a bit boring. So normally you'd scroll on your phone, but you just sat there thinking, or stood there thinking about a previous relationship, and the person behind you wanted to spark up a conversation, and that could have been a future relationship. But because you're thinking about your ex-girlfriend, you was a bit rude to her, and then she was like, oh, well, this person's a knob, I'm not going to speak to him. So you thinking about the past has robbed you of the present, and it had the power. You could have married this girl. Do you know what I mean? That could have been your future wife and kids. But because you was in psychological time, you was in the past, not in reality, and accepting reality as it was, you rob yourself of the power of a beautiful relationship. And we do this all the time without realizing it. You don't know what opportunities you're missing by being in your head. And then question number 3 was, is society chronically not in the now, not present? And I would argue they are. For the most part, we all are very busy trying to get enough to survive. And we're all very not present. And the phones don't help this, because like, take that example, you're shopping. A lot of people, I mean, self-service checkouts are obviously a lot more popular now, and that takes you out of the present. You no longer have to interact with somebody. That's a different point, I guess. That's being social. But you can run around unconsciously being in your head without being in reality. And any time you're prompted, it's boredom that prompts you to be in reality. Anytime you're prompted to be in reality, you just get your phone out. So I very rarely Like for example, I live on an island. Anytime I get on the boat to get off the island, it's an hour crossing. And there's probably 100 people on the boat. And I just look around and 99% of them are on their phone. And that's not presence, you're scrolling in a reality that isn't here now. And you rob yourself. You could have made a friend on that boat that you're friends with for life. That's not going to happen because you're on your phone and they're on their phone. So I think society is chronically not present. And I think there'll be a shift back to presence. And presence and boredom kind of go hand in hand, and that's why people avoid the present. So how do you implement presence in your life? So this is basically what Eckhart Tolle speaks about in the book. You stop, you disassociate with the mind. Don't think about how reality should be. Just look at it for what it is. I used to do this when I would walk my dog in these woods. I'd walk around thinking about what I had to do in the day, and I'd basically miss the walk. I'd do the walk, get home, and then it's like I haven't even done the walk because I can't remember. Whereas if I'm present now, and I'm doing the same now because I've come out here to make a YouTube video, and I can't see, all I can see is a camera, I can't see the woods. So if I'm present, like I see this tree, this is a big oak tree. A limb fell off of it in a storm. And I come and stand by this every day to make these videos. But if I'm actually present, now if I just made an hour-long video of me staring at that tree, you might say that's boring, but that's presence. And I was just looking at the tree, and it is essentially boring to just stare at a tree. But that's the power, and so you think there's no power in that, there's no power in now. But that's the trick, there is, and it's that presence that brings the power. And then you've got mindfulness, which is recognizing when thoughts come into your head, and then just being in reality again. And then you want to recognize psychological time, which is thinking about the past, thinking about the future, and be in the present moment. Another point which is very difficult, which Alan Watts speaks about, is, and this is the Taoist philosophy of non-action, Wu Wei, is acting without first thinking about it, because you kill all presence. And I'm a planner, I'm a chronic planner, I will plan everything. And my friends seem to just go with the flow, and that, maybe it's autism, I don't know what it is, but I hate not knowing what's going to happen. And this takes you out of the present, and this is the key. So this is the key learning point for me. Acting without premeditation, that's what Alan Watts would say. Doing it without knowing you're going to do it. Because if I say, I'm going to go home and make an omelette, I'm in the now the omelette, the present moment, has already been tarnished by me premeditating to do that. So this is a bit of a weird point, and it's hard to articulate, but okay, so take for example a day, right? You know most days are basically the same. You wake up, you eat, you go to work, you do some exercise, you socialise with family and friends, and then you go to sleep. Yeah. If you know, and they say sleep is the interval that makes it it gives you energy to do it again. If you had one long day that was just 100 years and you didn't sleep, it would be so repetitive and so boring that you wouldn't want to carry on doing it. But sleep gives an interval where it's interesting again. You wake up with renewed vigour and renewed interest. But if you knew every day was going to be exactly the same and there was no break, it would just be monotony and you would quit. And in the same way with your thoughts, if you plan everything and you know exactly what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it, who you're going to speak to, it loses interest and you don't want to do it. So the less you can plan and the more you can just experience it as it comes, the better. So this is easier said than done, but this is something I'm trying to implement, which is kind of taking you by surprise. Doing something without first thinking you're going to do it. Because as soon as you think about doing it, you've used twice the amount of energy. You've thought about doing it, and now you've got to do it. Like going for the gym, for example, going to the gym. Say you go to the gym at 6 p.m. When you wake up, you might think, oh, at 6 p.m. I've got to go to the gym. Well, that's taking up some energy. And then you go to work, and at lunchtime you're thinking, oh, I've got to go to the gym at 6. Well, that's taking up more energy. And then again at 3 o'clock you think the same thing. So you've gone to the gym 4 times already before you've even gone. Whereas if you don't think about it all day because you're in the present moment doing what you've got to do, at 6 p.m. you go to the gym and it's not that much effort and it's easy. But you haven't premeditated, you haven't thought about it. So I hope that helps. Be here now, be present, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Or maybe not, depending on what the present moment brings.